They say a lie doesn't break like glass. It loosens like a thread. Mine came loose under a humming blue vacancy sign, while my wife's taillights faded at the edge of a roadside motel. Claire was supposed to be helping Emily, again, grocery runs, babysitting, emergency pep talks. Help does not come with a key to room 12. I sat in my car with the engine dead and the window cracked. Claire crossed the lot in heels she usually saved for holidays. A man opened the door before she could knock. For a heartbeat, the hallway light held them in a soft halo. Close, too close. And then the door shut like a mouth swallowing a secret. I didn't rush in. I took the cheap camcorder from my glove box, set it on the dash, framed Claire's car, and pressed record. The red dot stared while my pulse tried to hammer its way out. My phone buzzed. Emily's having a rough night. Don't wait up. I stared at rough until it bruised. I typed, love you, and let the message sit unsent. Neon washed the lot a tired blue. I told myself I wanted clarity, but memory kept fogging the glass. Claire's summer laugh, the way she rose on her toes to kiss me as if gravity were optional. Heat pricked low at the thought of her skin, then turned on me, cold and accusing. I made lists. Maybe she met a client. Maybe Emily lent her the room. Maybe the man was a manager. Each maybe died under the light. The longer I watched, the quieter the world became until even my breaths felt like trespass. I bargained with time. If she comes out alone, I'll ask nothing. We'll make pancakes and pretend the night is an old rumor. In those fantasies, she chose me. Real life idled in the cold. A shadow crossed the curtain. Laughter muffled. I kept the camera steady. The first time Claire and I kissed was at a summer concert. Lemonade on her tongue, daring in the dark. Remembering it now hurt in a way that sharpened me. I would not bang on a motel door and beg. I would be the man who understood what was true. Another ping. A photo Claire had sent of Emily's messy closet, expertly lit, suspiciously staged. I pinched the image larger until the pixels broke. Maybe the picture was old. Maybe I already knew. When the door finally opened, the hallway spilled light onto the concrete. Claire came out first, hair a little undone, mouth shining. The man followed, tall, practiced, handsome. She touched his wrist, a thoughtless press, and laughed in a way I hadn't heard at our table in months. I raised the camera. The lens drank everything. Her quick glance left and right, the small lean of her body toward his before they peeled apart, like a secret with steps. She walked to her car with her phone already in her hand, drafting the next small story that would purchase one more night. I let the camera run until her taillights melted into traffic. Only then did air return, sharp and medicinal. I didn't chase her. I saved the file twice and slipped the camera under the seat. On the drive home, I passed the diner where, years ago, Claire's socked foot slid against my calf under the table. My body remembered how quickly warmth becomes voltage. The memory flared, then cooled into resolve. I parked 2 blocks away and sat beneath a blinking street lamp. I could go in and pretend to sleep. I could ask about Emily when she slid under the covers smelling like mint and a sweetness that wasn't ours. If she reached for me, part of me would still reach back. Muscle memory is stubborn. But maps are useless when someone has moved the country. So I opened my notes and started a new folder called Truth. Inside it, I typed a list. The lawyer a friend once said was discreet. The spare card I never activated. Passwords to accounts Claire never asked about. The title company for our refinance. Each bullet landed like a stitch, crooked, but holding. At the house, I left the porch light off and eased the door. The bedroom was dark, her pillow innocent. I set my phone on the nightstand face up and watched the ceiling until the fan's shadow looked like a slow hand turning the room. After midnight, I heard her key. Claire moved carefully, the way you do when you know the furniture by heart. I kept my eyes half shut and listened. Soft rustle, bathroom tap, the citrus hiss of makeup remover. Warmth gathered in the space between us, and my chest ached with the memory of simple hunger, the kind that used to end in kisses and the quiet, forbidden word for S***** I will not write. She slid into bed and lay very still. Her fingers found my forearm, rested there, then slowly withdrew. Rough night, I asked, voice sleep hoarse. She said. Emily's a mess. I let silence hold the lie. Under the covers, part of me wanted to trace old routes with my hands and pretend the map still worked. Wanting is a reflex, not a verdict. I kept my breathing even until hers matched mine. This was not the night I confronted my wife. This was the night I learned how to stop believing her. I woke before dawn, the way a soldier might wake in enemy territory. Claire slept beside me, her breath steady, her face softened into a mask of innocence. If I had opened my eyes for the first time just then, I might have believed we were still what we had once been, two people tangled in shared dreams. But I was awake, and dreams were no longer on my side. She stirred when my alarm buzzed at 6. I pressed it off quickly. "Sorry," I murmured. She smiled faintly and tucked into the pillow, the outline of her shoulder pale in the early light. I kissed her temple, not out of love but out of habit, and left the house with my briefcase heavier than usual. Inside was the camcorder, wrapped in a sweatshirt like contraband. Driving to work, I kept glancing at the passenger seat. The memory card in that camera held more weight than any object I had ever owned. Proof. Not suspicion, not paranoia, not late-night doubts. It was proof. And proof, I told myself, was power. At the office, I barely pretended to work. Instead, I uploaded the video onto my laptop, twice, then onto a portable hard drive. I watched it once through headphones. The moment the motel door opened, my chest burned. There she was, my wife, hair tousled, face glowing in a way I hadn't seen in months. The man's shadow loomed behind her like some phantom that had lived in my house without paying rent. I paused the video and studied her expression. Not guilt, not even fear. She looked happy, and that was worse. I closed the file and forced myself to breathe. My colleague Dave swung by my desk, cracking jokes about the weekend, asking if I'd join the guys for beers Friday. I smiled, lied, and said I'd think about it. Inside, I was already making lists again. Lawyers, finances, passwords, every corner of my life that Claire might one day try to seize if she thought she could. That night, Claire cooked pasta. She poured me wine, leaned over the counter, and asked how my day had gone. I studied her lips as she talked, pink and glistening from the steam. My body still reacted to her, an unwelcome throb of want, a reminder that attraction doesn't obey betrayal. She laughed at something I didn't hear, reached across, and brushed sauce from the corner of my mouth. The touch sent heat rushing through me, the same heat that had once led us from kitchen counters to bedroom sheets. "Thanks," I said, steadying my voice. Later, in bed, she nestled against me. Her hand slid across my chest, slow, testing. For a second, my body begged me to forget everything, to give in to the familiar rhythm of skin against skin, the almost forbidden word humming in the back of my mind. I turned onto my side, away from her, pretending exhaustion. She hesitated, then pulled her hand back. The lie between us had grown flesh and bone. By the third helping Emily night of that week, I decided not to just record, but to follow closer. She left around 7, perfume sweet and sharp, lips glossed. I trailed her 2 cars back. She didn't go near Emily's neighborhood. Straight to the same motel. This time I parked at the gas station across the street, my view half hidden by pumps. Room 12 again. But tonight, something different. She wasn't alone in her car. My breath caught. There was another silhouette inside before she even stepped out. A man kissed her quickly, right there in the driver's seat, before they both disappeared inside. My hands trembled on the wheel. Not one man. 2. At least. My wife wasn't simply sneaking away to see some secret lover. She was building a whole second existence, stitched with motel sheets and excuses. The rage I expected didn't come. Instead, a cold clarity spread through me. I filmed again, steady, my heartbeat a metronome. Every minute of footage was another nail in the coffin she had built for herself. Back home, I sat in the living room in darkness until Claire returned. She slipped inside, humming faintly, smelling not of Emily's house, but of perfume mixed with sweat and something bitter I didn't recognize. "Rough night again?" I asked, voice casual. "Yeah," she said, kicking off her shoes. "Emily's falling apart." I nodded, eyes on the muted television. Poor thing. She didn't hear the double edge in my tone. She kissed the top of my head, fingers brushing my hair the way they used to when comfort was real. Upstairs, I saved the new footage beside the first. A folder named Truth sat on my desktop like a loaded weapon. I wasn't ready to fire yet. Not until I knew how deep her lies went. That night, lying awake with her warmth against my back, I whispered the same promise I had at the motel. "This isn't over, Claire." Not by a long shot. The first lie I ever told myself was that Emily didn't know. It was tidy to imagine Claire's sister as a bystander, frazzled, grateful for help, blind to the hours that vanished with my wife. But tidy stories don't survive daylight. By Thursday, I needed answers from the only other person whose name had been stapled to Claire's alibis. I drove to Emily's just after sunset, when porch lights blur the edges of truth. Her townhouse wore the same tired wreath from last Christmas. A plastic tricycle lay sideways on the lawn like an abandoned thought. I rang the bell and felt my pulse in my throat, steady and hard. If she lied, I would hear it. If she broke, I would watch it happen. Emily opened the door in a faded college sweatshirt, hair tied up, bare feet. She looked smaller than the version in Claire's stories, less capable savior, more human sister. "Hey," she said, surprise flickering across her face. "Everything okay? Can we talk?" I asked. 10 minutes. She bit her lip, then stepped aside. Inside smelled like laundry and cinnamon, the domestic quiet that used to feel like my home too. A cartoon murmured from a back room. Somewhere a dryer hummed. Emily poured water without asking and set the glass in front of me at the kitchen island. "Is this about Claire?" she said, trying to sound casual and failing. "Yes." I laid my keys on the counter and watched the metal stop vibrating. "How many times has she used your name lately?" Emily's gaze shifted to the sink. "I mean, we see each other a lot. The kids." I followed her. I said, cleanly like a cut. "She wasn't here." The words hung between us, heavy and wet. Emily's fingers tightened around her glass. She didn't gasp. She didn't even look surprised. She just closed her eyes for a long second, as if a wave had finally reached the shore she'd been guarding. "How long?" I asked. She opened her eyes. "I don't know when it started. A few months? Maybe more." "Did you cover for her?" "A beat." "Yes." My jaw clenched. Somewhere in the house, a commercial jingle brightened and faded. Emily swallowed, guilt rising like color in her neck. She said she just needed space. That you were arguing, that she didn't want to make things worse. She made it sound temporary. Temporary what? The word tasted metallic. Temporary motel rooms. Emily flinched. "I never asked where. I didn't want details." "You had them anyway," I said softly. "You just kept the lights off." She wrapped her arms around herself. "I'm not the villain here. I didn't say you were." I took out my phone, thumb hovering over the file. "But I can't carry this alone." I pressed play. The video filled the kitchen with motel blue light. Claire stepping out of her car, hair a little undone, the door to room 12 opening like a mouth. Emily's breath hitched. When the man's shadow crossed the frame, she made a small sound, a hurt animal finding its wound. "I didn't know it was like that," she whispered. "It's at least like that," I said. "Maybe worse." Emily sank onto a bar stool. For a moment, we just listened to the tinny audio of laughter from another life. Her eyes glossed. She asked me to say she was here on Fridays. Said she'd help me on Sundays to make up for it. A broken smile. Sundays came and went. "She ever tell you who he is?" Emily shook her head, then hesitated. "She mentioned someone named D. once. I thought it was the client she talked about, the one who kept needing late meetings." I didn't press. I pocketed the phone. "I need the truth, Em. I need your help to get it." She looked at me then, really looked, like a sister-in-law and not a co-conspirator. "What are you going to do?" "I'm not going to shout in a parking lot," I said. "I'm going to make sure the ground under her lies disappears when she steps on it." Emily exhaled, a shiver of shame leaving her body. "I hate that she put me in this." "She didn't put you anywhere," I said. She asked. "You said yes." Her eyes flashed. "Do you want me to be your enemy? Because I can walk back every cover I gave her. I can tell her mother. I can burn it all down." I held up a hand. "I want you to answer questions. Quietly. Precisely. Then I want you to stop lying for her." Silence, then a small nod. "Ask, when did she start using my name as an excuse?" I asked. "Late spring," Emily said. "First it was errands. Then emergencies. She'd text me. Tell him I'm here if he asks. She said she'd explain it to you when things calmed down." "Things never calm down by themselves," I said. "They calm down when somebody stops lighting matches." Emily's mouth quirked, half sorrow, half reluctant agreement. "You always did talk like a man who builds bridges for a living." "Bridges don't lie," I said. "People do." The cartoon in the other room switched to credits. Electronic applause tinkled. Emily stared toward the hallway, then back at me. Do you still love her? The question found the soft spot under my ribs. Images rose uninvited. Claire's neck when she pinned her hair up, the way her palms slid under my shirt, tracing the path to the kind of S** that tastes like victory and home at once. Heat stirred, treacherous and immediate, as if my body hadn't gotten the memo my brain had printed yesterday. Attraction is a reflex. Love is a ledger. I love the version of her that told me the truth, I said finally. I haven't met that woman in a while. Emily wiped under one eye with her thumb. If I help you, Claire will say I betrayed her. She already betrayed both of us, I said. I'm just asking you to stop betraying me on her behalf. She nodded, throat tight. What do you need? Screenshots, I said. Any texts where she asked you to cover. Times, dates. And if she ever mentioned that name again, I need that too. I'm seeing a lawyer soon. I want to walk in with a clean stack. Emily hesitated. Are you divorcing her? I'm preparing to, I said. Preparation is how you keep from bleeding out. She stood, went to a drawer, and pulled out a small tin box, the kind people use for recipe cards and private storms. She took out her phone and scrolled, then started forwarding messages, little digital paper cuts, into my waiting inbox. Each ping landed like a tally mark. When she finished, she handed me the tin box. Inside were spare keys, a USB drive, a folded receipt. Claire left this here months ago, Emily said. Said it was just in case. I never looked. I lifted the USB between two fingers. May I? Emily nodded. If it helps you. I slipped the drive into my pocket. It will. On my way out, she touched my sleeve. I'm sorry, she said, simple and true. I should have told you sooner. Tell me now, I said. And when she calls tonight, don't answer. Let her sweat without a net. On the porch, the air had that clean after-rain smell even though it hadn't rained. I paused at the bottom step. Emily, I said without turning. If she asks, tell her I stopped by to pick up a ladder. A ladder? Confusion, then understanding. You're climbing out. Or up, I said. Depends on how you look at it. Back in my car, I plugged the USB into a small adapter and watched the folder populate. Screenshots, calendar entries, a photo Claire must have sent Emily from a bathroom mirror. Dress too new, eyes too bright, the kind of polish you put on for a night you plan to remember. My throat tightened with something ugly and hot. The mirror behind her reflected a hotel hairdryer screwed to the wall. I saved everything into truth. The folder felt heavier, as if facts had mass. My phone buzzed. Claire. Running late with them, don't wait up. I typed, got the ladder, and hit send. Then I drove, not home, not yet, but to a place with a printer and a lock on the door, where paper could turn lies into evidence and a husband could turn hurt into strategy. Evidence is a strange kind of hunger. The more you collect, the less it satisfies. By the time Emily's forwarded texts filled the truth folder, I thought I would feel steady, armored. Instead, my nerves twitched for more. Proof doesn't stop betrayal. It only makes you sharper at spotting the next lie. Claire left early Friday evening with her usual line. Emily needed help with a flat tire. Her tone was casual, rehearsed, even playful, as if the universe had cursed her sister's car every weekend. I kissed her cheek, tasting the faint chemical of gloss, and watched her drive away. When the taillights vanished, I followed. The motel lot looked the same. Blue neon flickering like a heartbeat, asphalt cracked and shining under street lamps. She parked in the familiar corner near room 12. My camera lens found her immediately, the red recording dot pulsing. Tonight, though, I wanted more than footage from across the street. I wanted a closer taste of the secret she thought she owned. I parked at the gas station again and slipped across the lot on foot, hugging shadows, breath held. My heart thudded like it had something to prove. Through the thin motel curtains, a slice of lamplight spilled out. I edged closer until shapes moved inside. Two silhouettes, hers and his, bodies leaning together, brushing. The way she tilted her head back, I remembered it from nights when my hands had been the ones guiding her neck. A wave of heat tore through me. Anger first, then that treacherous reflex of desire. Attraction is muscle memory. It doesn't ask permission. Seeing her mouth part like that, even in betrayal, lit something raw under my ribs. I turned away, forcing breath through my teeth. This wasn't about wanting her. It was about understanding the scope of her lie. I crept to the side, crouching near a window air unit. Their voices bled through the wall in fragments. Laughter, low and intimate. Words blurred, but one name cut clear. Derek. The sound of it felt surgical. A real name at last. Not a shadow, not a guess. Derek. I typed it into my phone immediately, adding it to the list. My hands trembled, but not from fear. This was a piece of the map. The door creaked open suddenly, spilling yellow light into the lot. I ducked behind the unit, pulse hammering. Claire stepped out first, hair mussed, blouse loose at one shoulder. Derek followed, taller, broad-shouldered, the kind of man who looked practiced at cheating. He touched her waist. She laughed. For a moment I thought she might kiss him right there, bold and public. But instead she pressed his wrist and whispered something I couldn't catch. They lingered, electricity humming between them, before retreating back inside. I stayed crouched long after the door shut. My knees ached, but adrenaline numbed me. Finally I slipped back to my car, recording everything in a whisper to the camcorder. Name, Derek. Room 12 again. Friday, 9:42 p.m. Documenting felt like laying bricks in a wall I would one day make her crash against. Back home, Claire slid into bed near midnight. Her perfume was heavy, layered with sweat, and some cologne not mine. She curled against me, breath warm on my shoulder. My body stiffened with memory, the way her thigh brushed mine, the silent invitation of touch. For a heartbeat, instinct screamed to turn and take what was offered, to press lips against hers and let anger burn into something primal. But I stayed still. Desire without trust is poison, and I wasn't about to drink it. She whispered, "You awake?" I forced a sleepy grunt. Long day. She kissed my shoulder, lingered, then rolled away. I opened my eyes in the dark. I wanted to believe she hesitated, that some scrap of guilt slowed her. But maybe she was only tired from Derek. The next morning, I tested her. "How's Emily's car?" I asked over coffee. She blinked once, too slowly. "Better. We got it sorted." A bland lie, neatly wrapped. I smiled, stirred sugar into my cup, and felt the weight of the USB drive in my pocket like a secret bullet. Later that day, I dug into Derek. Emily had given me a starting point with that single name. A quick search through social media, cross-referenced with local check-ins, pulled him up. Derek H., mid-30s, married, 2 kids. His wife posted family photos with captions about date night and soccer practice. The irony burned. He was juggling lies too, weaving them into family albums. I saved screenshots of his profiles into truth. Claire wasn't just betraying me. She was a co-author in another family's ruin. Somehow that made it worse and better at once. Worse because her deceit was bigger than me. Better because now there was another potential ally. Derek's wife, though I wasn't ready to light that fuse. That night, Claire suggested intimacy. She slid closer, lips at my neck, fingers tracing down my chest. Electricity rippled, half memory, half betrayal. My body responded traitorously, heat flooding. Every nerve remembering the rhythm of S*** without asking if I wanted it. But I turned onto my stomach, muttering something about exhaustion. She sighed, rolled away, and within minutes her breathing deepened. I lay awake, staring at the ceiling fan shadows. The attraction was still there, raw, uninvited, a ghost that refused to leave. But now it was a weapon. I would not use it to soothe. I would use it to sharpen. When dawn crept through the curtains, I whispered to myself, "I have her lies. I have his name. Next, I take away her safety net." And with that, Room 12 stopped being just a motel. It became my battlefield. If betrayal were a house, Room 12 was only the front door. I figured that out the night I opened Emily's USB on my office computer and watched a second window bloom beside the first. 2 folders. One labeled receipts, the other, innocently, favors. I clicked favors, expecting grocery lists or babysitting notes. Instead, I found screenshots, tiny squares of conversations where Claire asked Emily to cover Friday and say I'm on my way. In one, she wrote, "He likes when I wear the black dress." In another, "Don't text for an hour. I'll call after." The timestamps overlapped weeks I knew she'd been with Derek. But a third message, buried deep, yanked the floor out. "Switch to Saturday this week. Meeting in, at the Harbor Inn, same plan." N, not D. A second initial, crisp as a slap. I searched the rest. More N's. N, prefers daylight. N. Can't do Fridays. N. Says he'll bring the wine. I sat back, breath thin. Claire hadn't just found a lover. She'd built a schedule. I started with the Harbor Inn. It wasn't a dive like the motel. It was the kind of waterfront place where affairs pretend to be anniversaries. I drove there at noon on Saturday and parked where I could see the lobby through the glass. The air smelled like rain on hot concrete, the kind of weather that makes everything feel about to break. At 12:37, Claire walked in. No hesitating this time. No furtive glances. Sundress, sunglasses, hair pinned up in that way that always used to undo me. My body lit up. Memory is treacherous like that, then cooled into strategy. 2 minutes later, a man entered from the patio. Mid-40s, runner's build, salt at the temples. He touched the small of her back like someone who had earned it and hadn't. They laughed. She tilted her head. That tilt. And I felt a hot, stupid ache I didn't recognize as grief until it softened. I filmed from my phone, pretending to scroll. They took the elevator. I noted the floor, 3. When the doors closed, I walked to the front desk with a polite smile that felt like a mask. My brother's here for a lunch interview, I said, lying easily now. He said 3rd floor, but forgot the room number. Last name Novak. The receptionist checked. 307, she said brightly. Shall I ring him? No need, I said. Got it, thanks. Novak. N. Another brick in the wall. I didn't try the door. I didn't want a scene. I wanted certainty. I waited in the lobby for an hour, then 2, letting the elevator bell teach me patience. When they finally returned, Claire's cheeks were flushed and Novak's tie was in his pocket. He kissed her temple in a way that made me want to set the building on fire and then never look back. Instead, I filmed. Proof, not flames. Back in my car, I replayed both videos, the motel with Derek, the Harbor Inn with Novak. Side by side, betrayal looked like a calendar. That evening, Claire came home humming. She set a paper bag on the counter, the fancy kind you reuse. Emily gave me a candle, she said, pulling out a glass jar and holding it up as if it were a trophy. The label read Harbor Mist. I almost laughed. The universe didn't write subtlety into her script. Smells nice, I said, and my hands remembered the map of her hips. Heat flickered, hunger prowled. I pictured her in room 307 and the motel's split curtains and hated that desire could sit beside disgust like old friends. She leaned in to kiss me, slow, testing, the way you test a wire to see if it still carries current. Sparks leapt under my skin. I let the kiss last 1 second too long, then pulled back as if distracted by the oven timer that wasn't on. That night, while she showered, I sifted through our joint credit card statements. The Harbor Inn appeared with surgical regularity, first Saturdays, then 2 Thursdays. The motel billed under a generic LLC 3 Fridays out of 4. Same pattern, 2 men, alternating. A system disguised as spontaneity. When Claire slid into bed, she smelled like almond shampoo and borrowed innocence. She pressed her thigh against mine. Electricity zipped through me, the body's eager memory of S*** burning like a fuse. I rolled away. Early morning. I murmured and felt her breath stall, just a fraction, before she settled 3 inches distant. Sunday, I went to Emily with what I'd learned. She looked sick as I said the names. Derek, I said. Novak. She closed her eyes like she was bracing for weather. I didn't know about 2, she said. I thought it was one mistake repeating. Mistakes don't keep calendars, I said. They don't book rooms with windows. Emily pressed her palms flat on the table. What are you going to do? Build a clean stack, I said. Dates, times, payments. When I move, I don't want to be questioned. I want to be believed. She went pale, then resolute. I'll stop covering. If she texts me, I'll say no. And if she asks why, I'll say, tell your husband yourself. I nodded, grateful in a way that didn't feel like relief. I went home and printed everything. Screenshots, charges, still frames from the videos. A paper spine grew out of my anger. I tucked it into a manila folder labeled with a single word I trusted, truth. Monday morning, I called the lawyer a friend had recommended. Discreet, sharp. Her receptionist scheduled me for Wednesday. 2 days to gather anything else the universe might want to confess. Tuesday handed me the rest. I created a fresh social account under a name Claire wouldn't recognize and searched for Novak within 10 miles. Found him. Nicholas Novak, real estate, posts about sunsets and escrow wins. His relationship status read, "It's complicated," which is social media for "I like fire." He'd tagged a wine bar near the Harbor Inn. I cross-checked with our statements. There it was, 2 glasses, a charcuterie board, the same nights Claire had supposedly been organizing Emily's storage. I should have felt vindicated. Instead, I felt old. Older than the first time Claire and I tangled in the kitchen and laughed like thieves. Older than my own father looked when he told me my mother had left. The weight of knowing is heavier than the weight of doubt. Doubt still has hope mixed in. That night, Claire came to bed late and bare-legged. She slid a hand under my shirt and climbed close, breath warm, her mouth near my ear. "Missed you," she whispered, voice husky, the exact tone that used to unravel my will. For a second, the world snapped back to a place where her skin meant home and not hazard. My body rose to meet hers, betrayal and biology dancing their cruel duet. I kissed her, tasted almond and the ghost of wine, and then stopped, palms on her shoulders, holding distance like a life raft. "Rain check," I said softly. "I'm wiped." She exhaled slow. "Okay." The disappointment in her voice wasn't about love, it was about rhythm. She rolled away. I stared at the ceiling until the fan turned into a clock. I had 2 names, 2 rooms, 2 versions of Claire, each wearing a version of my wife. The first twist wasn't a knife, it was a mirror. She hadn't just stepped out on me. She had stepped into an entire second self. My revenge, I realized, would have to climb higher than a single confrontation. I wasn't taking down a fling. I was taking down a system. When sleep finally found me, it came with a clear thought that felt like a plan. Take away the rooms. Then take away the story. When you decide to destroy a lie, patience is your sharpest weapon. I told myself that every morning as I shaved, every evening as I watched Claire hum around the kitchen. Patience would let me cut the right rope at the right moment and watch her fall without lifting a hand. Wednesday came, my appointment with the lawyer. I carried the truth folder in a briefcase, papers neatly tabbed, USB drives tucked like bullets in an arsenal. The lawyer, a woman in her 40s named Marissa, greeted me with a handshake that could crack stone. Her office smelled of leather and ink. "Tell me what you've got," she said, settling behind her desk. I laid out the folder. Photos, receipts, screenshots, transcripts of messages. I explained Derek at the motel, Novak at the Harbor Inn, Emily's reluctant confession. She leafed through each page with the cool eye of a surgeon. "This," she said finally, "is more than enough to strip her claims clean. If she tries for alimony, this will bury it. If she wants the house, she'll leave empty-handed." Her tone was calm, professional, but I felt a shiver of savage satisfaction. Claire thought she was balancing 2 lives. She didn't know I was building the scale that would tip. "What about the kids?" I asked. "You don't have children, correct?" I nodded. The lawyer's expression softened for a beat. "Then it's simpler. The assets can be divided. With evidence of adultery, the court will lean heavily your way. You'll walk with more than she expects. Probably more than you need." I thought of Claire's laugh at the Harbor Inn, her flushed cheeks, the way Novak's hand claimed her back. The word need twisted. I didn't need more. I needed justice. Marissa gave me homework. Keep documenting. No confrontations yet. Quiet moves win wars. I promised her I understood. That evening, Claire came home late, cheeks pink, eyes bright. She kissed me too warmly, the kind of kiss that belongs to someone guilty. I played along, smiling, asking about Emily. Claire spun a story about helping her rearrange closets. She even described the color of storage bins. I nodded, all sympathy, while my mind replayed the truth. Novak's tie-pocketed, his mouth brushing her temple. Later, in bed, she curled into me. Her thigh slid over mine, her hand tracing slow circles on my stomach. My body betrayed me instantly. Heat rising, pulse quickening. The map of her touch still burned into me. Desire flared, sharp and demanding, pulling me toward the rhythm of S** we had once known as ours. I clenched my fists. This wasn't hers to take anymore. I kissed her forehead gently, an exit disguised as affection. "Long day," I murmured. She sighed, withdrew, and soon her breathing leveled. I stared at the ceiling fan, feeling like I'd just outrun a fire. By Thursday, I wanted more. Not just proof, but leverage. Derek had a wife, Amanda. Her social media painted a perfect family, smiling kids, dinner dates, holiday cards. I printed a few photos, tucked them into the truth folder. Novak's life was trickier. His status, complicated, left fewer traces, but I gathered every scrap I could find. If Claire thought she was careful, she underestimated the internet. Friday night, I followed her again. Same motel, same ritual. But this time, she wasn't with Derek. My breath hitched. The man who stepped out of room 12 was neither Derek nor Novak. Shorter, dark hair, clean-shaven. She kissed him quickly, casually, like this wasn't new. A third. I recorded, heart steady. Betrayal wasn't an accident. It was her craft. 3 men, 3 rooms, 3 lives. My stomach twisted, but my focus sharpened. Each face was another nail in the coffin of her lies. Back home, I saved the footage, labeled it Unknown Number 3. My truth folder bulged like a living thing, paper straining against clips. I stared at it, wondering how much more it would take before the weight crushed her. Saturday morning, Claire made pancakes. She set them on the table, golden and sweet, her smile practiced. I watched her pour syrup, her wrist delicate, her eyes soft. I thought about those same hands clutching Novak's tie, tracing Derek's jaw, pulling another stranger close. My stomach growled with hunger, but I couldn't taste anything. She looked up. "You're quiet." "Just tired," I said. She reached across, touched my hand. Sparks leapt, unwanted. My body remembered love while my mind remembered lies. It was a war inside skin. That afternoon, I returned to Emily. I showed her the new footage. Her face went pale. 3, she whispered. "At least," I said. Tears welled. "She's destroying herself." "No," I corrected. "She's building a kingdom of lies." "I'm just drawing the map." Emily covered her mouth, nodding. "What will you do?" "When the moment's right," I said. "I'll invite her whole kingdom to dinner." That night, Claire reached for me again in bed. Her body pressed warm against mine, lips grazing my jaw. Desire surged, fierce and immediate. For a second, I almost gave in, almost let myself drown in the familiar ocean. But then I pictured Derek's shadow, Novak's kiss, the third man's casual grin. I pulled away, heart pounding. "Rain check," I whispered again. She sighed, frustration slipping through. "You've been distant." "Work?" I lied, the way she lied about closets and tires. She turned away, tension stiffening her spine. I stared at her silhouette in the dark, the shape I had once loved without question. My chest ached with want and rage braided together. I whispered into the quiet, "Patience. Build the stack. When it falls all at once." And for the first time, I began to plan not just her fall, but my exit. When you keep a secret too long, it begins to sweat out of you. That's what I saw on Emily's face when she opened her door Saturday evening. Her eyes darted, her lips pressed into a line too thin to be steady. She stepped aside wordlessly, and I followed her into a living room where toys were scattered like forgotten promises. "You said there were 2. I told her without preamble. She rubbed her temples. "God, I didn't know about the 3rd. I swear." I pulled out the camcorder, scrolled to the latest clip, and set it on the table. Claire kissing the stranger outside room 12. Emily's hand flew to her mouth. She looked away, shoulders trembling. "How long are you going to keep protecting her?" I asked. Her eyes glistened. "She's my sister. She stopped being just your sister when she dragged you into this." Emily sat down heavily, her fingers gripping her knees. "You think I wanted this?" Every time she texted, I felt sick. But she begged. Said you were cold, distant. Said if she didn't have me to cover, you'd lock her in a cage. My chest tightened. "A cage?" "She made you sound like." Emily stopped, exhaling. Like the villain. Anger flared, hot and sharp, but beneath it something quieter ached. Claire hadn't only cheated, she'd rewritten me in someone else's story. To Emily, to her lovers, maybe even to herself, I was the unfeeling husband who forced her into someone else's arms. Lies are heavier when they wear your face. "Do you still want to protect her?" I asked. Emily shook her head, tears slipping down. "No, not anymore. I can't keep lying to you. Or to myself." She left the room and came back with a shoebox. Inside were scraps, old receipts, napkins with numbers, and a second USB stick. "I didn't know what else to do," she said. "I kept some of the things she left here. I thought if she ever got in too deep, I'd have something." I plugged in the drive. Folders bloomed. Photos of Claire in hotel mirrors, sometimes alone, sometimes with the edge of a man's shoulder visible. Scans of cards she'd used, both ours and one I'd never seen. A message draft unsent. Can't see you next week. Meeting D. Instead, Emily sat across from me, hands clasped. She's not who we thought she was. The words hung heavy. We both knew they were true. I need you on my side, I said finally. No more covering. No more excuses. Emily nodded, firm now. If she calls, I'll tell her I can't lie anymore. If she asks why, I'll tell her to ask you. For the first time in weeks, I felt a crack of air in my chest, like a window had opened. When I left, Emily touched my arm. She's going to blame me. She'll blame everyone but herself. I said, let her. At home that night, Claire was waiting with wine glasses and music low in the background. She wore the red blouse she knew made my pulse quicken. Her smile was playful, her eyes bright. Thought we could have a date night, she said. Her hand found my chest, tracing the line down my shirt. My body reacted instantly, heat blooming, that primal reflex of want. She leaned in, lips brushing mine, soft and insistent. For a moment, I nearly surrendered, nearly drowned in the illusion that this was still us, still real. But then I saw the camcorder in my mind, the image of her mouth on someone else's skin. My desire hardened into something colder. I kissed her back once, just once, long enough for her to believe the lie, then pulled away. Rain check, I said, voice even. Her eyes narrowed, suspicion flickering. You've been distant. Work? I replied smoothly, the same weapon she used against me. She smiled thinly, retreating, but I saw the calculation behind her gaze. The net was tightening, and some part of her knew it. Sunday, my phone buzzed with Emily's text. She called. I told her I won't lie anymore. She's furious. Brace yourself. I exhaled slowly. Good. The safety net was gone. Now every step Claire took would land on bare ground. That night, she tried again, sliding close, whispering against my ear, her body warm and inviting. Desire flickered, cruel and immediate, but I stayed still. She pulled back, frustrated, her breathing sharp. Something's changed, she murmured. You're right, I said quietly. She searched my face, eyes narrowing, but I gave her nothing. When she finally turned away, I whispered into the dark, not for her, but for myself. The ground is shifting, Claire. And when it cracks, you'll be the only one who falls. I set the trap the way you set a holiday table, carefully, with cloth napkins and the good plates. Family dinner, I told Claire. We haven't had everyone together in ages. She blinked, wary for a heartbeat, then smiled. Guilt loves company. It makes lies feel normal. I cooked early, letting the house fill with garlic and rosemary like truth disguised as comfort. I polished the wine glasses until my face wavered back at me, a stranger wearing my jawline. On the TV, I cued a quiet slideshow, photos from trips, birthdays, sunsets. At the very end of the playlist, tucked like a shard inside velvet, I added the files named plainly, room_12 and harbor_307. Claire dressed like a promise, black silk blouse, bare shoulders, the small gold chain I'd once fastened at her neck with my mouth. Heat crawled up my ribs at the sight of her collarbone. The memory of tracing it with a slow kiss, the way a certain kind of S** used to start without a word. Reflex is a cruel animal. I caged it with a swallow and an even smile. Big night, she teased, smoothing my tie. Just family, I said. Just us. Emily arrived first, pale but steady. She hugged me longer than usual. I felt the apology in her grip. Then Claire's mother, perfumed and fluttering. A cousin. 2 aunts. The room filled with safe stories and safer laughter. Claire moved among them, glowing, a woman playing hostess to a life she'd already sold. We ate slowly. I poured wine like a patient bartender. Claire's leg brushed mine under the table, an electric ghost. I could have leaned into it and rewritten the night with skin, but tonight wasn't for forgetting. It was for remembering precisely. Dessert came. I stood, raised my glass. Before coffee, I said, I made something. A little highlight reel. Claire's smile tilted. You? Sentimental? Hopeless, I said and pressed play. The first pictures were harmless. Claire with flower on her cheek. Emily holding a newborn, my arm around a sunset. Warmth spread through the room. Someone dabbed at an eye. Claire glanced at me with softened surprise, a small, reluctant gratitude that tugged at the old rope between us. For a second, I felt the urge to stop there, to leave everyone in a room lit by birthdays. And then room 12 filled the screen. The blue motel sign flickered into our living room like a siren. On the couch, a fork clinked a plate. The camera held Claire's car. The door opened. Claire stepped into that hallway light, hair mussed, mouth shining. A man's shadow crossed behind her, his hand at her waist. In my living room, her mother made a small sound, like a glass cracking under heat. "What is this?" Claire said, not a whisper. A warning. I kept my voice soft. "Our year. All of it." The harbor and footage rolled next. Her sundress, the elevator, Novak's hand at the small of her back, the kiss to her temple. The room went very quiet. That particular silence of people realizing the story they've been in is not the story they thought. Claire stood. "Turn it off." I didn't. The clip ended on the elevator doors opening, as if the building itself had exhaled. Her mother rose halfway, then sank back down. "Claire." Emily stared at her lap, knuckles white. Claire's eyes found mine, bright with panic and fury braided together. "Why would you do this here?" "Because this is where the truth belongs," I said, "with the people who were used to cover it." She laughed once, sharp. "You think a couple of videos mean anything? You've been cold for months. You pushed me away." I swallowed the old ache. "I didn't push you into reserving rooms." She moved closer, hips swaying, like she had learned that nearness could fog a man's mind. I could smell her, skin, silk, a ribbon of something sweet. My body remembered the map. She knew it. Her hand brushed my wrist, a plea or a tactic. Heat flared traitorously. I stepped back as if from a stove. "There are more," I said. "Dates, receipts, names." Emily's breath hitched. Claire's gaze snapped to her sister. "You." Emily met her eyes. "I won't lie for you anymore." For a heartbeat, everything teetered. Claire turned to the room, assembling a new script in her head, but the audience had changed. Her mother's mouth trembled. An aunt whispered a prayer. The cousin stared at the carpet like it might open. "I can explain," Claire said, voice softening into a register that had gotten her out of speeding tickets and into locked rooms. "Then do it," I said. "Explain Derek. Explain Novak. Explain why Friday smells like motel soap and Saturday like harbor wine." Color drained from her face. "You went through my life. You left it in parking lots," I said. Claire's mother stood, shaking. "Claire, darling, please tell me this is mistaken." "It's edited," Claire snapped, desperate now. "He cut it together to make me look. I could stream the raw files," I said, lifting the remote. "Do you want the timestamps too?" She stared at me as if she could will the air around us to change. When it didn't, her shoulders dropped. "Fine," she said, a brittle surrender. "Fine. I messed up. Are you happy? Can we talk privately?" So we could negotiate in a bedroom while the audience reset? No. Tonight was for bright rooms. "We'll talk," I said. "But they deserve to hear what you did with their names in your mouth." Emily flinched. Claire's mother sat down again, slowly, as if the chair might not be where she left it. Claire smoothed her blouse, reassembling poise like armor. "I was lonely," she said. "You were distant. You stopped touching me." The old guilt tried to rise, my hand on her hip, her whisper at my ear, the kind of S*** that used to kill the lights. "I wouldn't let it. I stopped touching you after I learned where you'd been. Not before." She faltered. The timeline betrayed her. I set the remote down. "I'm filing. I'll be fair, but not blind." Her jaw tightened. "I'll take half. You'll take what truth leaves you," I said. She glanced around, calculating exits that weren't doors. "You think they'll all forgive you for humiliating me?" "I didn't humiliate you," I said. I turned on the lights. Emily stood, voice small but steady. "Claire, I love you. But this," she gestured at the screen. "This isn't a storm you can charm your way out of." Claire swallowed, eyes shining. For the first time, I saw the girl inside the woman, reckless, cornered, scared. A part of me ached to close the gap, to hold, to soothe. My body twitched toward her before my mind yanked the leash. I opened my briefcase and set the manila folder on the table. Truth. Not a flourish, just gravity. "You don't have to read it now," I said to the room. "But it's all there." Claire's mother touched the folder with 2 fingers like it might burn. "Oh, Claire," she whispered, and in that small sound a decade of holidays collapsed. Claire looked at me one last time, something defiant sparking behind the glaze. "You think this is the end?" she said. No, I said quietly. This is the middle. The end comes when the paperwork does. She grabbed her purse and walked out, spine straight. A queen exiting a court that no longer believed in her crown. The door closed. The room exhaled, messy and human. I poured coffee for the people who stayed. Hands shook. Someone cried. Emily helped me stack plates like pennants. When the house finally emptied, I stood alone in the doorway to the dark living room. The TV screen reflected me back, a man with a remote and a pulse he could finally hear again. Upstairs, the bed waited, warm, familiar, treacherous. I turned off the last lamp. All the lights on, I whispered to the empty room. Now we see. The morning after the dinner, the house smelled like ashes, even though nothing had burned. Claire's perfume still clung to the air, sharp and sweet, but the rooms felt hollow. I made coffee alone, the silence punctuated only by the scrape of my spoon against the mug. Every corner of the kitchen whispered memories, her laugh over breakfast, her hip brushing mine while we cooked, her soft hand tugging me toward the bedroom. But memory had become counterfeit currency. I opened the truth folder on the table, the papers stacked with surgical precision. Receipts, screenshots, credit card statements, hotel charges, Emily's forwarded texts. A ledger of lies. Last night, I had shown the family the headlines. Today, I would show the courts the footnotes. The phone buzzed. A message from Claire. We need to talk. Alone. Alone was her last refuge. In bright rooms, her voice faltered. In shadows, she still believed she could weave spells. My thumb hovered over the screen. Desire flickered. The part of me that still remembered her skin against mine, the wordless rhythm of S*** that had once bound us like gospel. My body whispered to go, to listen, to forgive. My mind reminded me of Novak's kiss, Derek's shadow, the stranger outside room 12. I typed back, lawyer first. Then we'll see. Marissa greeted me with the same firm handshake, her eyes glinting as I laid the new evidence across her desk. This is airtight, she said, flipping through the folder. She can't claim ignorance, can't argue entrapment. She lied, repeatedly, and you have corroboration from her own sister. What happens now? I asked. We file. With this much, she'll have no leverage. You'll keep the house, the savings, the accounts in your name. She'll leave with what she brought in, and from what you've shown me, that isn't much. It should have felt like victory. Instead, it felt like an autopsy. Cold, clinical, the dissection of a life I had once believed in. Do you want her to know we're filing? Marissa asked. Yes, I said. But not from me. From you. Send the papers. She needs to see it's not a bluff. Marissa nodded. Done. That night, Claire tried again. She came by unannounced, knocking softly before slipping inside. She wore the red blouse again, the silk that once unraveled me. Her eyes were bright with something between anger and seduction. You embarrassed me in front of everyone, she hissed. No, I said, voice even. You embarrassed yourself. She stepped closer, the sway of her hips deliberate, her perfume a wave that dragged memory with it. My body tensed, heat flaring despite myself. She touched my arm, fingers light, a whisper of electricity shooting through me. Reflex roared. Pull her in, kiss her, strip away the distance. But I held my ground. I still love you, she whispered. We can fix this. Just you and me. The words might have worked once, but now they sounded like lines from a play whose ending I'd already seen. I leaned close enough to smell the wine on her breath. Love doesn't book rooms, I said. She froze, hand falling away. So that's it. You'll throw everything away? You already did, I replied. Her jaw tightened. I'll fight you in court. I smiled, small and sharp. Good. Bring Novak. Bring Derek. Bring whoever was in room 12 last week. I've got the footage queued. For a moment, I saw panic flicker in her eyes. Then she masked it with defiance. You'll regret this. No, I said softly. You will. She left, slamming the door so hard the walls trembled. 2 days later, the papers were served. I wasn't home when it happened, but Emily texted me. She came straight here after. She's furious. Said you're out to destroy her. I typed back. I don't have to destroy her. She did it herself. Emily's reply came quick. Still, be careful. She's unpredictable now. She was right. Claire had lost her safety net, her lovers, her family's sympathy. The only thing left was desperation. And desperation is dangerous. That Friday, I drove past the motel out of habit. Room 12 was dark. For the first time in weeks, no car waited in that corner. The Harbor Inn's lot was empty too, at least of familiar silhouettes. A strange sadness pulled at me. Proof that even betrayal has a rhythm, and when the rhythm stops, silence feels heavier. Back home, I poured a glass of whiskey and sat at the kitchen table, staring at the stack of evidence. I thought about the man I had been months ago, the one who believed his wife was helping her sister, the one who kissed her goodnight without suspicion. That man was dead, buried in receipts and grainy footage. In his place sat someone colder, sharper, more patient. Someone who had turned attraction into strategy, desire into discipline, love into leverage. I raised the glass in a silent toast to the empty room. To truth, I said, and to endings. The courthouse didn't smell like justice. It smelled like toner, old carpet, and the faint, metallic breath of a building that's heard too many confessions. I sat at a rectangular table with Marissa, the truth folder open like a hymn book. Across from us, Claire wore a pale suit and the expression of a woman rehearsing remorse. She didn't look at me. Or maybe she did, and I didn't recognize it. I had stopped offering her the face she used to read. The judge leafed through our filings. Paper whispered. Clocks ticked. Somewhere down the hall a copier coughed. We'll take the issues in order, the judge said, and order, finally, began to arrive. Marissa started with the dates. Friday nights at the motel. Saturdays at the Harbor Inn. Screenshots bloomed on the table. Texts to Emily. The double-booked alibis. The receipts that matched the room numbers like coordinates. Then came the names. Derek, Novak, and the unknown third, captured in the bright spill of room 12 like a moth in porch light. Claire's attorney tried to object. Context, he said. Strained marriage. Mutual neglect. Context doesn't make doors open themselves, Marissa said, mild as a scalpel. The judge raised a hand and looked at Claire. Do you dispute that these visits occurred? Silence pressed on the room. Claire's mouth worked, elegant and useless. I was lonely, she said at last, voice very small. Lonely didn't move the ledger. Next came the money. Marissa slid bank statements forward like cards, quiet transfers, cash withdrawals, a second credit card I hadn't known existed. Funds diverted from the joint account financed these hotel stays, she said. Additionally, respondent attempted to open a new line of credit listing petitioner's income. A page turned. Without his consent. That was the second twist turning solid before the court. Betrayal not just of body, but of balance sheets. I watched the numbers land like small hammers. Part of me wanted to look at Claire, to find the woman who once tucked her feet under my thigh on the couch and fell asleep to rain. But that woman didn't sign these forms. This one did. When it was my turn to speak, I kept it clean. No speeches, no wounds offered for inspection. I believed she was helping her sister, I said. I discovered otherwise. I documented what I saw to avoid a shouting match and to protect myself when the shouting started anyway. Do you intend to reconcile? The judge asked, as if the question could be asked of a broken mirror. No, Your Honor, I said. He nodded, read, wrote, and finally spoke the words I hadn't dared to script in my head. Dissolution granted, no alimony. Marital residence retained by petitioner. Joint savings awarded to petitioner after reimbursement. Respondent responsible for debts incurred on undisclosed accounts. The gavel's soft tap sounded like the lid closing on a box I'd been holding open too long. Outside, the day was bright and indecently normal. Traffic hummed. A child laughed somewhere near the steps. Claire followed us through the double doors and stopped, eyes shining not with tears, but with a hard, glassy fury. You made me into a monster, she said. No, I said. I stopped letting you make me into one. She stepped closer, that old sway of her hips like a muscle twitch she couldn't unlearn. Even now, my body remembered the map of her, the warm press under my palm, the tilt of her head that once meant yes, the kind of S*** we'd written in a language only we understood. Desire flared like a match and burned out just as fast, smothered by the stack of paper in my briefcase and the echo of room 12. You could have forgiven me, she whispered. You could have told the truth, I said. For a moment, the space between us filled with every almost we'd ever had. Then she turned and walked away, heels ticking out a metronome for a song I wouldn't follow. Marissa squeezed my shoulder, and left me by the steps with my new, clean future rolling toward me like weather. I didn't feel triumphant. I felt returned to the version of myself I had misplaced inside her stories. I drove home with the windows cracked, letting spring air pull the courthouse smell off my suit. In the kitchen, I made coffee and didn't flinch at the empty chair across from mine. The house had been a stage for lies. Now it was just walls, floors, and rooms I could arrange to fit their names again. I walked from room to room like a surveyor. The bedroom where I had learned to hold still when every nerve begged to move. The living room where the screen had shown what eyes refused to. The hallway where two glasses had once clinked in the dark, and I had pretended the sound belonged to us. On the dining table, I laid out the folder one last time. Not to reopen it, just to see that it could close. Every page had a purpose, a timestamp, a receipt, a face turned by lamplight. Every page had also been a cut. I slid the papers back into place, pressed the clasp shut, and felt the sting fade into something like clean skin. Emily texted, "How did it go?" "Final," I wrote. "I'm okay." She replied with a heart, and then, "I'm sorry again. I'm trying to be better at telling the truth early." "Me too," I wrote, and meant it. Evening settled. I poured a small whiskey and took it to the porch. The sky bruised purple, then darkened to the honest color of night. Somewhere down the block, someone laughed. Farther off, a siren wailed and vanished. The world kept its own ledger. I thought about the man who had waited in a parking lot under a blue vacancy sign, about the way my hands had shaken and then steadied around a camcorder. I thought about the warm, thoughtless press of Claire's fingers on another man's wrist and the warm, careful press of mine on a pen as I signed what needed signing. Neither motion told the whole story. Together, they wrote the ending. Revenge, people say, is fire. Mine wasn't. It was paper. Copies made twice. Names spelled correctly. A slideshow played with all the lights on. It was desire, caged until it cooled into discipline. It was patience sharpening itself into a key. I raised the glass to the dark and spoke to no one in particular. "Here's to the truth," I said, "and to walking home without looking back at which door you used." The night didn't answer. It didn't need to. For the first time in a long time, I did.